Hey everyone, let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks because it looks like they're going to go all in. I mean, that's what I've been talking about. I've talked about some trade scenarios with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'll still kind of allude to that here. But, I mean, there's so many rumors. Like earlier, Jeff Marek on his show is talking about the Canucks maybe trading Zadorov again to create cap space if they can't get a good deal for Kuzmenko, or maybe they trade both. I mean, Kuzmenko, when you're talking about $5.5 million against the cap for this year and next, it's tough, right? The guy has only a half a point per game this season, so like 20-something points in 40-something games. It's not good enough for what they were expecting from the guy. Zadorov, I mean, Canucks fans have liked Zadorov. I mean, he's created chaos. He's shown the size. He's 6'6", so when he's next to Myers in situations where you need to defend guys, I mean, in the playoffs, that's going to be valuable. So I see the Canucks keeping Zadorov, but I also see the scenario where it's like, if they needed to move a guy to create cap space, he could be that. I mean, they only traded a third and fifth for the guy. They didn't overpay to get retention on Zadorov. But in a different way, if they did get retention from Zadorov at like 1 point something would have been insane. But I look at it as this. If the Canucks really do want to go all in, there's other guys they can move. I mean, the Connor Garland fit has looked a lot better. I mean, on lines with like physicality, and I mean, there's been certain guys that have just stepped up. Like Pius Suter's played a huge role. Dakota Joshua on that line with Garland. Like, they've been really good role players for the Canucks. So I think Garland might stay, but if you combine Garland and Kuzmenko, that's over $10 million against your cap. So that's something to consider if they do want to move a guy and maybe bring in a stud, or maybe bring in an Elias Lindholm from Calgary that's been talked about. So I think there's so many scenarios out there for Vancouver right now. The most likely scenarios are, I think they could add a center or a guy that can play center in the top six. So is that Lindholm, or is that them going for like a Monahan or Henrique? I think there's a scenario where they do call Calgary again and try to figure out a trade, but it's just tough. I always talk about the division trades, but then again, there's like a weird history of trades between the Canucks and Flames that make it go, okay, you got Lindholm in Calgary, you got Tanev in Calgary, and there's a lot of rumors right now that the Ottawa Senators will go heavy after Chris Tanev in the offseason. So if the Sens go after Tanev, I mean, that's a scenario. He could play next to Shabbat or Chychrun if the Sens don't trade Chychrun. But for the Canucks, I think they could look at Calgary, and I think they could look at Pittsburgh. Those are the two teams I am watching if you are the Vancouver Canucks. If I could throw a couple other hot takes out there, Buffalo intrigues me. There's a few guys there. I've talked about Middlestat in the past. I look at a guy like Jordan Greenway. There's a couple guys there that I wonder if Vancouver would have interest in. I'm not saying it's necessarily a likely scenario, but there's interesting perspectives there. And then you have the Canucks fans that have brought up Eriksson Ek in Minnesota. I think that's unlikely. I don't think Minnesota's going to trade Eriksson Ek. But again, Minnesota's a team that if Vancouver was looking for the playoff-style guys, Eriksson Ek, Hartman. If Minnesota was willing to trade one of those guys, I think you have to go and look what the price is. Look what the offer could be. So I'm looking at Calgary. I'm looking at Pittsburgh for Vancouver, and I do think Kuzmenko is going to get dealt at some point. I think if they can't deal him, then maybe they do have to deal Zadorov and go for a cheaper. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Like Philadelphia, if they don't re-sign Nick Seeler, that would be a perfect scenario. He's much cheaper. He's under $1 million cap hit. That would be the example of a guy that's just cheaper and plays the same role as Zadorov. I mean, Sealer's huge. I think he's around 6'5", 6'6" as well. So if Vancouver can get a cheaper guy like that in a trade and move on from the Zadorov cap hit, that makes sense. So we'll see what happens, guys. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about it. Zadorov, could he get traded again? Kuzmenko, where is he going to go? I think there's been a lot of rumors around where Kuzmenko could actually end up. I know Pittsburgh's been a discussion there, but I think there's a lot of other teams. Like, if again, does Vancouver want to trade in division? Probably not, but I honestly would look at a team like Anaheim and see some of the physical defensemen they have there. See a guy like Radko Gudas. I'm not saying that would happen, but I mean, Kuzmenko could benefit in Anaheim, and maybe Vancouver looks at a guy like Vetrano. Again, I'm just spitballing, but something like that. A team that's struggling this year, and you look at a scenario like that. Throw another example, the Ottawa Senators. Vancouver could look at some guys on Ottawa, maybe even a Chychrun, maybe even one of their middle six guys, and Kuzmenko gets an opportunity there. I don't know if that one's as likely, but that's kind of the examples I'm getting at. So let me know, guys. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we'll talk very soon.